Pythagorean Theorem and trig ratios. So we're going to do the first part is Pythagorean Theorem. All right, so Pythagorean Theorem deals with right triangles. All right, so when we have a right triangle, we have a 90-degree angle and then we have two acute angles. Each of these sides are called legs. And it doesn't really matter what one is leg 1 or leg 2. We label one as A, one as B, and they really could be backwards. What is important is the side that is across from our right angle. That one is called the hypotenuse. It is always side C. It's always that side over there. So here is the relationship. The formula is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Meaning that if I'm trying to find a leg, right, the non-hypotenuse, I am going to do this. And if I need to find the hypotenuse, I'm going to do this. So let's do the hypotenuse one first. I'm going to set up my formula like this, all right? I don't know C, so it's going to be leg squared plus leg squared equaling hypotenuse squared. So we're going to add our squares. A squared plus B squared is going to give me my C squared. But if it's a leg, I need to find legs on this side, right? So then it's going to be, I'm going to be subtracting. So I'm going to go hypotenuse squared because that's always our longest side. This is our longest side. Hypotenuse squared minus leg squared, and that will equal our leg squared. So it's going to look like C squared minus maybe an A squared or a B squared. It doesn't really matter, equaling our B squared. Okay, so to find a leg, we subtract our squares. To find a hypotenuse, we add our squares. So let's look at our first example here. I'm finding my hypotenuse because if I do that to my right angle, that will always give me a hypotenuse. So that means that I'm going to add the squares together. So I'm going to go 2.6 squared plus 1.4 squared. And that's going to give me my x squared, or my c squared. Let's use c. So in my calculator, to square something, right, means to times it by itself. So that means that I'm going to go 2.6, and then I'm going to use the square button, plus 1.4 squared. So that left-hand side is 8.72 equaling c squared. Now that's not the length, that's the side squared. So this time I'm going to go, how do I get rid of a square? I'm going to square root it. So I'm going to square root my 8.72, and that'll give me my c value. So square rooting is second function, the square root button right there, right? It's going to give you something that looks like that. And then you can either type that in, or you can, if you've got a graphing calculator, you can go second function and then use the little answer. And it'll pop in the answer, meaning it will take this and put it in there. And you end up with, if I give to one decimal place, the 9 rounds up to a 3, 3.0. And we're in centimeters. Okay, let's try that again. This time I'm going to put my calculator on this side. Again, I'm finding my hypotenuse, so I'm going to square both of the sides and add them together. 9.8 squared, 8.2 squared equaling c squared. Again, punch that in your calculator. 9.8 squared plus 8.2 squared gives me 163.28 equaling the square of it. Now I'm going to square root that answer, right? Second function square root, get it in your calculator. Second function answer, And this time I get C to be equal to 12 point, rounds up, right? 77 is closer to 8. All right, so that is finding a hypotenuse. There is also finding sides. So let's do the two at the bottom because they are a little bit different, right? This time, if you put your arrow in, you actually have your hypotenuse. So let's set it up, okay? This time I'm going to subtract. Always make sure that you put your hypotenuse first. Your larger number always has to go first, right? Because if you're squaring and subtracting, subtraction means the larger one goes first. Equaling, this time it's not C, it could be A or B, and you can choose, I'm going to go B squared. Whatever you want it to be, okay? And again, punch it into our calculators. 9.1 squared minus 1.9 squared gives me a 79.2 equaling B squared. I know I'm not done because there's no way that that side could be 79.2. I'm going to square root that answer. Square root that answer, and I get 8.9 because it's 9 after that. So 8.9 meters equals that bottom side. Same process, right? I square rooted the answer before I got there. So again, same one. If you want to stop the video and try this one out before I do it, do that. All right. So again, I have the hypotenuse. I'm finding a side. So I'm going to go set it up. Hypotenuse squared minus leg squared equaling the side I don't know. And you can label any letter you want. You can even go x squared. And again, I'm going to punch that in my calculator. 6.4 squared minus 3.5 squared. And I'm going to get 28.71 equaling x squared. I need to make sure I square root my answer. Square root my answer. That gets rid of the square on the other side so that I just have a plain x. On this side, I'm going to get a 5.4 because this rounds that 3 up to a 4, and I have meters. All right. So that is how to find a hypotenuse and how to find a leg. Now, your assignment is everything that's on page 2 is finding a hypotenuse. So it's like example, like these two examples here. Everything that's on page 3 is finding sides. So it's like the last two examples that you just did at the bottom. And then if you flip the page, there is 6 of them that are a variety. It could be finding a hypotenuse or a side. So you have to check, am I going to be adding them or will I be subtracting them? Okay? And the answers are provided for you, so make sure that, or actually if they're not provided for you, come and check here with your teacher. And if they're provided for you, correct them as you go. All right? So that is the first section, Pythagorean Theorem. All right. Have a good time on the assignment. Bye.